Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast, brought to you by the Wealthy Speaker School. This is the podcast dedicated to people who want to speak more as a way to build their income and grow their business. Hey, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. I'm your host, Jane Atkinson, and today we are talking about how to set the stage for more business using your bio. Your About Us page on your website should really tell a story, and we've brought back, by popular demand, Caroline Mays to talk about how to bio like Beyoncé. Welcome, Caroline. That term, bio by like Beyoncé, tell us what you mean when you say that.
Thanks so much for having me back, Jane. When I designed Bio Like Beyoncé, which is essentially a guide for discovering your story, first of all, and writing your own bio, I was thinking about, I wanted to kind of blow open everyone's ideas of what they're supposed to do and kind of put the ball in their court. Like, this is your chance to say exactly what you want to say. And so using Beyoncé, who is essentially a performer, and that's what your bio should be, is a performance. And so we go through it. It really talks about one specific album in particular, because I wanted to also tackle these concepts that people have a hard time with, like vulnerability, specifically vulnerability, and like what you can actually get away with if you tell the story right. And so anyway, it's about being creative. It's about putting something really bold and significant out there, something repeatable, something that, as I always say, you could make a film out of, you could make a movie out of. And so that's the premise.
And I want to make sure we put in the show notes your Switchblade Lemonade film. That was originally how I got to know you. Somebody mentioned you on a podcast. Maybe it was Amy Porterfield or somebody like that. And then I watched your film that talked about kind of your dedication. And we'll put the film, talk a little bit about, I think somebody that you know made that film with you. Is it your brother?
Cousin.
Your cousin.
Mm-hmm. It was such a random thing. This is a cousin he's older than me. I've kind of revered him. He's like my other artist cousin. You know how you have those?
Yes. Someone who you're drawn towards at family functions, like the person that you have the most in common with, right?
Totally. Kind of a black sheep. We have that whole thing going on. So anyway, he and his wife were in California, and that's where I was living at the time. And I got a text from him that's like, we're in town, and do you want to come meet us? And so, hell yeah, I do. And so I went out there, and I mean, we don't see each other very often. So we were having that, like, so what's up with you in the past 8 years conversation. And I was talking about my business. And so that conversation was kind of over, and I was talking to his wife, and he was, dinking around on my website, and he was just like, these are so visual. We have to make a movie out of these, these are. And so anyway, he kind of nerded out over that. And so he said, do you want to make a movie out of your bio? And I was like, sure. And so we got up the next day and shot a lot of that footage, just kind of off the cuff. And so anyway, and then we put it together, we kind of pulled out all the stops, like, because they got a body double for certain parts of it, because he wasn't there. Yeah. And we hired a voice actress, and so it's not even my voice on there. And so
wow.
Yeah. So
that's amazing. So, okay, talk about the outcome, because we're going to have people go to the show notes and take a look at that video. But what was the outcome of that video? It must have, it must have gotten a lot of attention. And did it help your business? It certainly drew me in. I'm thinking it worked on a lot of levels.
It did, and I got a lot of attention and kind of had a year of just craziness business wise, where I learned a lot. And anyway, and it's really kind of helped shape things going forward.
Mm-hmm.
But that, whether you're doing a video or not, and a lot of people come to me wanting a video script essentially. And
Okay.
so we do those. And I always say, make sure you find a good director and a good storyteller in order to because anybody can have a video camera. I'm just going to put that there. So make sure that you find somebody good. And but yeah, it opened a lot of doors for me and created a lot of opportunity. And that's the goal of not just a bio, but really crafting an identity, which is what we're doing.
And I think that whole goal, okay, so that video for you had this magnetic pull to it. And that's what we really want everybody's bio to be, is like somebody that would look at your bio and go, oh, yes, I must know more about this person. I mean, really, we're just trying to get them to the next step in the process. When it comes to booking a speaker, the bio is one part, the demo video is going to be another part, the website, how it feels, is going to be another part. And so I think maybe some people are missing the opportunity with their bio to really grab people. And so I can just hear some of the questions that people might have. But what if I haven't done anything that's like really great and amazing? What do you say to that, Caroline? What if I've not scaled Mount Everest? What if I haven't overcome, something awful or whatever it might be? I can just imagine people saying, but what about that?
Right. Some people have really amazing stories to tell, and that's great. And some people have regular lives and amazing ways of thinking about them. And that's what we do, is we figure out that way to talk about you. And so you don't have to have done anything epic. Bio like Beyoncé talks about this a little bit too. It's not your Everest. It's not this grueling story. You don't have to tell a story where you really got your guts ripped out and you had this this horrible vulnerability thing.
Right.
It doesn't have to be that. And when I say story too, that's another thing that's kind of tricky, is your story can be 2 sentences long. I'm not even. And then we can launch in, but it gives us the structure and it gives us the leaping off point to talk about ideology and other things. I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
Worry about whether you're ready for it.
Yeah, we're not all Beyoncé. And I want to talk about something for a second here. Beyoncé, I'm just reading a book about creating an alter ego for yourself. And when you walk on stage, you might have your alter ego in place. And Beyoncé had Sasha Fierce. She was a kid who grew up in the church. I mean, she was not like someone who would get out and gyrate on stage and in these, kind of provocative ways. That wasn't comfortable for her. So she had to create an alter ego in order to actually get there. Do you think when you write your bio that you should be wearing your alter ego or who you are on a regular day-to-day basis? I know I'm totally throwing you a curveball by asking you this question. I'm sorry.
Seth Godin talked about this a little bit, that like the whole authenticity thing is overrated.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because so if we're thinking about an about page, for example,
okay.
This is about page is one of those things that people use as a synonym for bio. Like that's what they think of as that page.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And it's 9 times out of 10, it is where people go to talk about their favorite ice cream flavors, the name of their dog, their Myers-Briggs score. Like it is nothing but small talk. And so when you are crafting a story, you are I don't know if I would call it alter ego, but it is a piece of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Maybe the best version of yourself.
The most compelling version of yourself.
Okay.
And that's what people really get confused about. When they're telling their story, they're like, yeah, but all this other stuff happened, and I was kind of brave, but I was also really freaked out. And, they want to, when you're reading anything about anybody, you're not getting the whole story. You're getting what is relevant and what matters.
Right.
So it can get really overwhelming. I talk about this with my bio all the time, or I've mentioned it to certain people. Like, I talk about running.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also a cyclist. I've done rock climbing. I have I'm doing a lot of lifting right now. But the point of like what my sports are was not the point of the bio.
Right.
It's about so many other things.
It was something that we could connect to you on. It was like you're so passionate about this,
right?
That when you are passionate about your work, you bring the same level of passion to the table. I think that's kind of what was at the core of that video, anyway.
It's kind of my mother sport, It's
mm-hmm, yeah.
Really kind of birthed that part of myself.
Right. It wasn't about the running, though. It was about what was a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I could see people going like, well, yeah, I'm a runner, but I'm also blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, we're talking, we're grappling at the essence here.
It's not about the vehicle. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and you really got to that essence when you came and wrote my bio on my About Us page. If people want to see it, they can go over to speakerlauncher.com and click on the About Us page. And one of the things that you pulled into it, which still really just tugs at my heart, was the fact that my brother, like your cousin, was your idol. My brother was my idol, and he passed away. Actually, we just had the 10-year anniversary a few days ago, and it's still really hard for me to believe that he's gone. But you pulled that out of me during our session, and I never in a million years would have thought to talk about it from the way that you did, and you did it so beautifully. And I still love everything that we wrote, and it really gives people, I think, something to connect to with me, whether it be loss or whether it be the other ends of things that we were talking about. I think that's really the point. When people talk about their favorite ice cream color or their dog, it's because they're trying to give you something to latch onto that you have as common ground, right?
Yes, it's this, again, the people were trying to seem down to earth, relatable, authentic, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
This really weird way to do it. The problem with that too is that, and this is, I kind of want to break people's notion of bio / about page, whatever you want to call it, because it should be able to live on beyond that page. So you should have something worth repeating. Your message should be there, worth repeating on your homepage, for example. It might be written differently,
right?
But the message should be there. It should be repeatable on lots of platforms. It should be able, like we've said, to make into a video should you decide to do that. It should be the catalyst for it could be the catalyst for your book if you felt compelled to write one. Mm-hmm. Like it needs to have tentacles that spread out beyond, its original intention, just to like fill this space. And I think that's how people think of it. It's like this obligatory, like, we got to put something here to fill this space. And that's not what it's for at all. This is like the foundation for your brand, for God's sake,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's something important,
And I would say, okay, so let's talk about when people write their About Us pages, what we often see that may miss the mark. So, and I would have directed people, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, to probably say, okay, well, kind of start from the story and just work your way through it chronologically. But we didn't have any rhyme or reason to it. There wasn't anything that was really pulling it out. So let's talk through what parts of your process might be that can get people to the essence of who they are that might be important to the buyer. Yes, and Caroline, can we make sure that we're not saying don't not say all of the things that you've done in your business that makes you credible? Like,
Right.
how do we weave the credibility in with the things that we're talking about here?
There's a couple of different ways that you can do it. And there's nothing wrong with listing those credentials, if you have them, right?
Mm-hmm.
That might really be valuable for what you do. It's not always relevant, but if it is, first of all, it just cannot be the crux of your brand, right? It's not. You can't build anything on it. It's something else. So kind of, I guess you can dismiss it as the idea of your bio, or you can think of it as one of your bios or as a part of your bio. And so
Okay.
there's a couple of different ways to do it. I have woven things throughout people's bios. But another thing is you can have it, I just say, like, separate it and
Mm-hmm.
have the at the bottom of your
Yeah,
page.
we put mine like under a little street cred thing. Author of 4 books, over a decade as one of the business managers, 6 years under the roof of a bureau. We put it as just bullet points at the very bottom. But I actually just want to read people what you wrote because I think it's so good, and I think it'll get people thinking about it. So at the top of the About Us page, there's a headline and it says surviving information overload in the speaking industry is a rite of passage for those new to the field, period. Okay, so then there's a little subline, many drown in it, others acquire the focus that drowns it out. And then we kind of go on to when you habitually change your approach, your plan, your agenda, your message, you're always in between the action, never in it and never getting that far. And then we talk about how it really in the end comes down to commitment and begs the question, to whom or what are you devoted? And then I start talking about me. So first we're really talking about them, which is so unusual to me on an About Us page, but I loved the approach. And then we talk about how I've been devoted my entire life. At 25, I peered up the corporate ladder and confirmed I didn't want that climb. My oldest brother had awakened the entrepreneur in me long before that. So when I encountered Les Brown, blah, 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 this all happened. So I just absolutely love the way that you spin the language. And what I really like about this is that you made it about them first and then about me. And we always talk about doing that on the home page, but I had never really thought about doing it on the About Us page as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny that you bring that up because there's an idiom out there that's like don't talk about you, talk about them. It isn't about you, it's about your customer.
And I say that all the time. I mean,
Yeah,
all the time.
right, and it's true. But here's what happens. It's kind of funny is that you might go to someone's website or their about page, and then it's like, so they have that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll say something like, are you tired of trying to get rid of that last 10 pounds and you can't do it?
Mm-hmm.
Are you? And they're so obvious with it and overt, and it can sound very infomercially.
Right.
So you really do have to have some finesse there. And we can tell that you're about to launch into a story with the opening of your bio.
Mm.
I mean, like there's something there that's way more compelling than let me ask you a bunch of dumb questions, you know? And so anyway, you have to be careful with it. It's funny how people take on certain information as dogma and then they aren't really putting any craft into it.
Okay. So let's first make the conscious decision that we're going to craft your
Yes.
About Us page in a way that will be compelling. Okay, so that could be step one, is set your intention. What would be a step that would allow me to pull out? You did it, you do it with us, and we're going to talk about your course, Bio Like Beyonce, and how people can really go deeper into this work if they want to. But let's talk about the step that would help me kind of identify what all the cool things that maybe should go into this. Do we start with a list of everything and then start whittling it down, or how do you do that?
You know, I've got a whole process, a questionnaire, and we
Mm-hmm.
go through all this information. There's an interview that goes along with it. But I will say this, because some of it, it's kind of intuitive, and you're sifting. Yes, you're sifting through a bunch of information, and you start finding what.
Right. Like you, Caroline, you're going ding, ding, ding. That's something we're going to go deeper into. You know, when you hear it, you know it because of your own intuition, likely, and having done this a long time. But other people, I don't think they know what's a ding, ding, ding and what's not.
Right, exactly. You know, I talk about this too. Like when we are writing about ourselves, we go into this defense mode instead of offense. So it's like, well, what do people want to know about me? And they start writing from that angle. And you need to be more proactive and say, what do I want people to know?
Okay, that's a really good question. And that's the kind of thing I'm looking for here. What do I really want people to know?
Right.
That's good.
And so once you figure that out, you can figure out what story best illustrates that point for you.
All right.
Right. And so that's a great place to start.
I love that. What do I really want people to know? When you and I were talking, we talked about, well, what's the biggest problem that speakers who want to get into the speaking business might face? Well, it's 10 times even when we did this work together, which I don't know how many years ago it was, 2 or 3 maybe. It's the information overload has gone 10 times the amount of what it was back then. And that was a problem back then. So imagine what it is today. So what do I want people, my goal is for people to say, I only want one voice in my ear. And I want that voice to be someone who is authentic, someone who doesn't have the rich quick scheme, someone who says, look, you're really going to need to be devoted to this, and here's what it's going to take, and lays out the plan for them. And so you were able to really capture that. That's why we haven't tinkered with this since. I mean, I'm letting it roll because information overload has not changed. It's only doubled and quadrupled. So what do I really want people to know is a great question for people to be asking themselves.
Yes.
What's the biggest pain point of your customer?
Right. Yeah, and it's like we were talking about earlier with the it's not about you, it's about your customer idiom. Like that's a great piece of information, but like I said, we really have to be careful what we espouse as dogma, because it will kind of start to warp it in our minds if we don't really think about what that means. I always think too, I've come up against in my work about people who can't let go of the power of why. Tell your why, that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And this is kind of a segue, but or just a little sidebar, but I am not here to poo on Simon Sinek by any means. Like, he's a very smart man, obviously. My point is just that, again, like, just be careful, because sometimes, like, why is an important question. It is. But your bio, for example, might not be about why. It might be about how. It might be like, it might just be stating like, this is what is for me.
Yeah.
Right? Why is an important question to maybe get us to where we need to be, but kind of puffing out your chest and stating your why can produce a really altruistic statement, but it also might be really trite, and it's also going to need some finesse beyond that.
Yeah, so, you have to look at how it's going to land, right?
Right, yes. And you put it in a context for people with the story. So, yeah. and if you're just going to, when you are creating your message, let's say that lives on your homepage, like that BAM statement, that takes a lot of work too. It's probably not going to just come out from asking that one simple question.
And that might be what you just said. It takes a lot of work. If that's the only thing that you walk away from this podcast with is the idea that you want to craft your words wisely, then our job, I feel, is done. Really be thinking about how are you saying it and how's it going to land. Okay, so you have a vision of changing the world, one audience at a time through this particular message, but you do have to think about how that's going to land with people. Is it going to be an eye-rolling moment or a moment where they're actually drawn in and you're more magnetic to them, that you're attracting them more because of that? And I think that's where we have to be really careful. There's a very fine little gray space in between the eye rolling and something that's compelling and attractive, don't you think? Give us some examples of what might get, well, I'm putting you on the spot again, I'm sorry, something that might get an eye roll. Just give me some like trite line that you read everywhere.
Oh God. You have to stand out from the sea of sameness, is one, which is hilarious because it's like,
because everybody's said it before.
It's going to help people step out from the sea of sameness. Yeah.
I'll give you one from my industry.
Please.
One of the world's most sought after speakers. That's just language that I've seen 100 times. So is it unique language? Because everybody's using it. So that's the kind of thing that I think if you're going to say something like that, you need to give me the why. Show me why people hire you. What is it? So let's go back to that question. What do I really want people to know? If you're out doing it and you're doing a lot of work, great. How do we say that in a more compelling way?
Yeah, and if you're going to say that you're a sought after seeker, you need to back that up with something. You might be a sought after. I would maybe not say sought after, think of some other language.
Yes.
But yes, it's so true. It's like, here's one that I see a lot, and I see this a lot with agencies, which is so crazy.
Okay.
So there's the tell your story idiom, right, or phrase. And then there's we're risk takers. Everyone is a risk taker. And it's so funny because it's like, there's no story here.
Yeah.
I don't see any risk being taken.
Yeah, maybe you're just showing me some proof of being risk takers rather than saying we're risk takers, right?
If you're a risk taker, you're going to just show it rather than say it.
Yeah. And that's in your world. So what would be the version in our world? And I don't know that as a speaker, that's, risk taker is something that we would hear a lot of people saying, but I love the idea of them finding different words for cutting edge information and content. And, there's lots of things that I see. They're going to customize their program. Okay, everybody customizes their program. That is like such a low bar. Let's raise the bar a little bit higher than that and really talk about what it is that you get to the heart of prior to walking on the stage to be with your audience. And I love, Mark Sanborn used the term one time, the greatest compliment a client can give me is, oh, I thought you worked for our company, which meant that he had really done his homework and his research. And I thought, okay, that's really cool. And that's the kind of thing that you could work with and build into a bio is, his or her clients often say, wow, I thought you worked for us. That's more interesting language than we'll customize the presentation, right?
Yes, that's a perfect example.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I love, what do I really want people to know? What are some other questions like that we can give people as tangible walk away here?
Oh gosh. I always ask people, what is your line in the sand? What are you kind of up against? Because in everybody's industry, they're frustrated by something, right? That's part of it. And they are hopefully kind of rebelling against something that's out there in their line of work. So identifying what that is an important thing to know. And then
I love that. And I hope content wise our listeners are saying, what I'm up against is the sameness. And I am striving to, be the unicorn that's out there in front, leading with different content and unique content and things that people haven't heard before, and saying it in different ways. There really is no new information, probably. Right. I mean, I don't know that that's 100% scientifically proven, but the way that we package what we're offering is going to be new. And the stories and the spin that you put on it is going to be new, right? That's all we've got to work with here.
That is all we've got to work with. And that's why, and I hate to, sometimes the word story really, it's one of those words, right, that let's
talk about that. Talk about, you're like, are you just done with story?
I am, and it's so fun because you can tell I try not to use it, because even when I say bio, it's a little bit synonymous with story.
Right.
I'll use phrases like personal history. You have to delve into your personal history, your narrative, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I'm just doing it for one, I'm just tired of people calling themselves storytellers, but also, again, it's a word that we hear, and now it's just rolling off our backs,
right.
Water off of the duck, and we're not letting it sink in that, like, why are we doing this? Like, why do you even have to have a story? And again, it's because you need that container that delivers the message, and like you're saying, there's nothing really that's that unique out there anymore. The only thing that is unique is our story. And again, this is what makes people think that they have to have something epic and different, but it's our perspective on the story.
So good.
Yes. And I also, this is a word that even the word bio can be really confusing, because as we've discussed, like, it can kind of, we're referring to several different things, like several pieces of paper, like the one that lives on your website, the one that's a little bit more formal, your media bio, your welcome to the stage bio, your LinkedIn.
Yes.
And that's something that I do now, is I take care of all of that biographical content. Is we take care of it,
Right.
And it all kind of stems from that mothership piece of content, which is that bio, which bio is short for biography, right? Mm-hmm. We don't have the space to write a book, your whole entire biography. So what we're doing is we're taking what's important, what's relevant to your business and your audience, and we're condensing it down to a piece of usable art for you to keep using over and over and over again. So
I really love it.
Yeah, I want people to really get rid of the idea of, I have to write an about page, or, and think in terms of biography.
Okay. I love that. All right. I think it's really funny what you just said about story, because our topic of the month for our school in January was story. And I'm now going to rename it containers that deliver the messages. Anyway, we're not over, in our world of speakers, we're not over the term story yet, but I can totally get where you're coming from, Caroline. You know, you really live in this creative space. And that's why I love talking to you, because you come at things from way, way different brain than I do. And your perspective is really unique. Okay. If people want to learn more about your program, Bio Like Beyoncé, tell them where they should go and what they should do.
So the name of my business is Switchblade Lemonade, and Bio Like Beyoncé is for it's easy. It's a downloadable, it's PDF guide. You know, I want people to print it out,
yep,
and mess it up,
fill it in. Okay, cool.
Get some paper and
great,
and brainstorm and do your thing.
Great, I love it.
And I also want to say, for people out there who are maybe they can't, it's just not in the budget to invest in me writing for them, but they are writers. I work with a lot of people who write a lot,
yeah,
and they want to invest in their own writing and invest in their biography / story / narrative in this way. That I have
container.
Right. Then I do coaching as well.
Okay.
To help people really find the merit of their work, because they might not see it, and we can identify not just the story, but also what's great about your writing and what's working here, and how we can really infuse your style and voice into this, but make it as effective.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So we'll put a link to Switchblade Lemonade in the show notes, but I want you to send us over a direct link to Bio Like Beyoncé, and we'll put that in the show notes as well. And Caroline Mays, thank you so much for your time today. I love how you come at things. I love talking to you. I can't wait. We have you as one of our masters in the Wealthy Speakers School, and I cannot wait until it's Container Month, or whatever we're going to call your month. It's going to be so much fun. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
And for those of you listening in, I really appreciate you being with us. Please let us know if you're enjoying the podcast. You can leave us a review and a rating out on iTunes or wherever you are listening. And with that, we will say, see you soon, Wealthy Speakers. Bye for now, everyone. Hey, thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed our show, you'll want to come and visit us at the Wealthy Speakers School, where we provide a proven roadmap for building your dream business. Go to wealthyspeakerschool.com. And for show notes for today's podcast, head on over to speakerlauncher.com and click on podcast. I'll see you soon, Wealthy Speakers.